Great. All right. Good morning, Wildcats. I'm Ryan Blasquez, or Mr. B, as many of you know. And thank you so much for being here this morning. Today's August 24th, 3 weeks before our first day of school. And I wanted to give you some information about how we're going to be rolling things out this year. And this meeting's being simultaneously interpreted in Spanish. If you need that feed, you can use the button at the bottom of the screen, the globe button. And I'm going to watch my pace and count on our IT folks to slow me down if I need to. Next slide, please, Lisa.
Sorry, Ryan, it logged me out. Hold on just a moment.
You're good. Okay, so like I said, I just wanted to give you guys some information. We're going to answer some frequently asked questions and then give you a chance to generate a few more questions for us. That being said, I don't want to just dump info on you this morning. There's a lot to do and a lot to learn this fall. I hope what you hear this morning is that we have some plans and we stand ready to help your student and your family any way we can. And I'll just give you a second to review today's agenda. All right, next slide, Lisa. And, you know, as we go into these conversations and into this school year, I just want to acknowledge some truths that this is not what many of us envisioned in K-5 schooling. Our families, our kids, our teachers, our support staff, certainly myself, we know that elementary education is best done in person, where we can give immediate feedback to your child, ensure that they're accurate, look students in the eye, let them know that we care about them. And that's harder to do right now. And I know this has caused anxiety and frustration and some anger from our community. And we get that. You know, that being said, we can't control a global pandemic and we can't control infectious disease guidance and we can't control the rules that Oregon will use to decide if we can go to school again in the Portland area. But we can control how we're going to partner together, how we support and care for each other, how we're going to attend to students' needs, and how we're going to learn about all the new things that we need to learn about. Next slide. And that's what we're going to do. You know, to quote our famous school song, we're the CFT Wildcats, we're the best that we can be. And our mission is that we believe every child can achieve at a high level, and we're responsible for that. And that's who we are, and that's what we do. And we're going to put social emotional health and reading skills right in the front of everything we do, as we always have. We're an all-inclusive community. We work to foster peer-to-peer relationships and support. We want to help support strong learners, but more importantly, we want to create strong citizens. And we have a commitment to equity, meaning that whatever we do needs to work for everyone. And this year's like unlike any other, but we got outstanding teachers and families and support staff, and they're passionate about the work we're going to do and committed to this community. And early and often here, you're going to see links for emailing our office team, phone numbers and emails of people that you may need to contact. I just asked that this morning, as you think about questions, if they're specific to your child, then reach out to us and we'll help you through that. Everybody's back at work now. Our teachers start next Monday. And so we stand ready to help you in any way you need it. Next slide, please, Lisa. And so that brings us to the question and answer function here. This morning, we're lucky enough to have some of my esteemed colleagues, Tammy Mondahano, our family liaison, Sonia Lule, our instructional coach, and Danielle Dover, our office manager. They're on the Q&A feed. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see that question and answer button. You can add any questions in there that you have, and they're going to be working to answer those live. If they can answer them, then they'll pop up live for everybody to see. If they can't, we're going to work on those after this meeting, follow up with people who need specific questions answered, and then we're going to publish those questions and answers on our website, along with this video and along with all these slides. So don't worry about having to scramble to write things down that come up in these slides. We're going to put this slide deck right on our website. And I think we'll talk about emailing it out to everybody too. Okay. And so that being said, I just want to welcome everybody. We have some kindergarten families on here and some new members to the CFT community. And we're so glad that you're with us and committed to making sure this is a great school year for you and your child. I want to tell you just about some key players in our school, folks that will be great resources for you. I'm Ram Blasquez, like I said, and that's my picture there. And this is my 6th year at CFT, and I just can't say enough great things about this place and about the families that attend here. I have a son who's a 4th grader in a local elementary school as well, and live really nearby and really value this place. Mrs. Dover's our office manager. She's also in her 6th year, super student-centered, thoughtful problem solver. You know, she also has 2 kiddos who went through CFT. Next slide. Tammy Mandahanu, who I mentioned is also on our feed this morning. She's in her 2nd year in her role as family liaison, but she has worked as a teacher in our ELD department as well. She has a 1-year-old son who I hope will be a Wildcat in 4 years. And Mrs. Leeper, Steph Leeper, is our bookkeeper. She is just a smart, outstanding bookkeeper, holds my hand through all sorts of budget and spending stuff. She has a 5th grader here at CFT and a middle schooler who came through here as well. And so again, these are the folks who will be your first point of contact as we move forward. They maintain our website. They're involved in all school communication. So you're in good hands with them. They can get you things you need. Next slide, please, Lisa. So also join us today, I mentioned Sonia Lule. She's our instructional coach, and she does all kinds of things. She's a teaching expert who also is very skilled with tech and working with our staff to prepare for the year for these new programs we'll be using. She'll be supporting us and you along the way. I'd also like to announce, and unfortunately I don't have a picture of Anna, but Anna Potlin, who will be joining us this year as a family partnership advocate. And that's sometimes called a community liaison. So she's teaming with Tammy and me and a bunch of other folks in building here to coordinate all the services that we're going to provide. And I'll share more as we develop her role, and you'll see her name attached to a lot of correspondence that goes out about stuff. Next slide. Quick intro on these folks. Because as we start the year, you know, the frequently asked questions that have been coming in often involve them. So Destiny Cowan, who is our counselor, Catherine Kripakrin, who's our learning specialist, one of our special educators, Katie Perry, who's our other learning specialist, special educator, Cindy Hagee, literacy specialist, and Karen Obi is our language development specialist. And the reason I want to highlight this crew is because they manage our federal programs. So special education, Section 504, Title I, Title III. And while Oregon has shifted and changed the things expected from schools, the federal rules and regs have not changed a whole bunch. So these guys have had to adjust to a lot, thinking about how to adjust their services in this new model. And most of the law around their services focus on access. How do we get kids to access stuff? So if a student's struggling in reading, how does Miss Hagee build a bridge there? If a student's not able to understand English vocabulary, how does Miss Obi support that? If a student needs help communicating or toileting or eating lunch or using scissors due to their disability, how do our special educators do that? A break plan or a lunch bunch for students who need that. How does Miss Cowan bridge those gaps? And the thing is, we're now in a completely different situation with different curriculum, different skills needed to do school. So these 5 have to come to understand all that. They have to work with all of our families to identify these new bridges, these new gaps, and these new ways of helping. And they have to acknowledge that you and your kids are learning a bunch of new stuff too. So my point is that we need to go slow to do this right oftentimes. What your child may have needed when they were going to school every day in last winter might be completely different than the things that they're going to need now. And we're going to work with you every step of the way, and we're going to evaluate that. And these guys are going to work their tails off to help you. But I just want to advocate a little bit there and say, let's figure out this new context before we start throwing services at kids. We don't want to overwhelm you or them. Next slide. So, as we move into this year, we still have high expectations of our kids. We're going to have high expectations of our teachers, and we have a lot of priorities that we're building alongside of our community. And I want to just spend a minute articulating what those are. The first goal that we have as we start this year is, how do we make instruction accessible? How do we make sure it's predictable and consistent for you, for our kids, for our teachers? Secondly, we want to emphasize that student and family engagement are more important than they've ever been. They're always incredibly important, but our connecting with you, communicating clearly about school and about needs of your children are really important, and we're going to work really hard on that. We also know that students can't learn if they don't feel emotionally supported. This has been a really stressful situation for all of us, and some kids disproportionately. Kids are bringing a lot of anxiety and uncertainty back into this school year, and supporting their emotional health is going to be foundational to anything else that we're able to do with them in a learning situation. And lastly, like I said, we're going to keep literacy and language development right at the front of our academic program. Literacy includes reading and writing, and those are the things we often think about. Language development applies to all students, even if they're not speaking a language other than English at home, or academic language is how we open doors to kids. And when you think about math, it's not just about crunching numbers. It's the new standards and the things that kids need to be college and career ready is they need to know how to communicate about the math, which involves literacy skills. They need to know how to interpret the questions being asked, which means academic vocabulary. Those skills translate across all content areas. And so we continue to focus really heavily on our literacy and our language skills. Next slide, please. And Lisa, this one has some fancy animation, but I'll let you know. So if we talk about as a team, what are the three things, as of August 24th, we want families to start thinking about? The first one is the home learning environment. So we know that there's challenges when multiple members of the home are in the home or working. We have siblings who may or may not be school aged. How do we get routines? How do we think about kids using devices when we know they're going to have a lot more screen time once school starts, since that's that primary tool they'll use for school? And so as we create routine, which is that second bullet, and we think about home learning environment, it's really important that you involve your child in planning that. We need to make sure that they understand what's expected of them and that there's buy-in there. Where are they comfortable working and where are they the most efficient? What are some agreements you can make as a family, and how do you ensure that you can kind of do those things Monday through Friday so kids have less barriers as far as access in school? And we don't expect you to do that alone. Again, these are conversations we're having a lot with our counseling team. If you need support on that, teachers are going to be working with kids on those skills. But these are things that we want to start really thinking about, the where and the how kids are going to be doing school. And that third bullet point is getting to know these three big tools. These are words you're going to see and hear a lot. There is tech trainings that are starting as early as this week around these tools. And the first bullet there is Canvas. And Lisa, if you could just click slide. And so Canvas is the platform we're going to use, which kind of serves as our shelf in this analogy. So the kids will go into their Canvas much like they did Seesaw in the spring. And in Canvas is the place where teachers will be able to drop the materials that they need for that day and that week. And so Florida Virtual is the curriculum that we're going to be using. And that has modules for all the academic stuff that kids will be doing. So you can think about Florida Virtual as those cans. And when a student gets into Canvas in the morning, they're going to see these cans that the teacher has put onto the shelf for them. The other tool that kids will be using, which most of you are familiar with, perhaps not our kinder families, and that's okay. We'll get you trained on it and we'll get the kids trained. Next click, thank you. And that's Google Hangouts. And so Hangouts, as you know, in the spring, we used as a way for kids to kind of come together and be social. And sometimes it was loose, and sometimes there was activities to be done. As we move into this fall, we're going to use this a lot more intentionally. Google Hangouts is going to be a place where certainly we have our social emotional learning time, where we'll be teaching specific skills and social skills. And then we're also going to use it for live instruction, where teachers are previewing what kids are going to be doing online, or they're reviewing things that they know their class needs to work on a little differently. So becoming familiar and fluent with Google Hangouts is going to be important. But again, I'm just giving you a heads up on that as parents, knowing that our teachers are going to be spending a lot of time in these beginning weeks and months of school of hammering home the how-to for kids, the skills they need, the expectations. Okay. So a very frequently asked question has been around our daily schedule. And as you all know, we asked families as a school district to choose a program, 100% online or hybrid. But at this point, those two tracks really don't matter yet. For the first 9 weeks, for certain, we'll all be working from home online with the same schedule, using the same stuff. And this is what it's going to look like each day. You know, that being said, we want to provide a predictable, consistent framework, but know that our teachers are going to adjust depending on the developmental level of kids. So although these will be the blocks that we use, a fifth grade experience and a kindergarten experience are going to look very different in these. And for those of you who missed that district level elementary meeting a couple weeks ago, I just want to take a sec to walk through this schedule for you. And please add questions into the Q&A below if you feel like we need to clarify some of this. But also know your teachers and our school are going to be really communicating a bunch about these things. So every student across all 10 elementary schools, across all grades, is going to start their morning with a class meeting where there will be some of that social emotional learning. We'll talk about empathy and how to come up with coping skills when you're feeling nervous. We're going to talk about how to be a digital citizen and how to participate in meetings the right way. We're going to talk about social justice. We're going to talk about things that are happening that might cause stress, and we're going to respond to those community of kids depending on what they need. And our teachers are getting trained up on those skills and those tools. Then we're going to have a break so we can kind of recalibrate and get ourselves ready for some academic time. We're going to have reading and writing instruction first. And while that is a 45-minute block, there's going to be some of that preview, review instruction at the beginning that makes sense. And then really what we think will happen is teachers will stand ready in an open classroom where kids can go into their classwork, do some work. If they have questions, or if you're helping them and you have questions, that you can pop back into that open classroom space and ask those questions of the teacher. Now we're going to work on how that should look and what it'll look like exactly. But that's just to kind of lower some maybe your worry about these big blocks of time and expecting kids to have their face on screen. That's not necessarily going to be the case, but we are going to have our teachers ready to help if you need it. Again, small groups and work time, we're probably not going to start small groups right away. That's going to take, again, some understanding of these different tools we're using, but that second chunk will be more teacher supported work and time for teachers to pull kids into small breakout rooms, which we're working on being able to do in Google Classroom. And then, you know, having a reasonable break there where we're going to encourage kids to get up and move and run and do all those things. Maybe some teacher facilitated break time there too. Next slide, please, Lisa. And then very much the same for our math instruction, which is the next content area. So while there will be instruction that's live, and again, for families, we know not everybody's going to be able to meet the needs of this schedule every single day. And so the important instructional things, the things that the teacher's introducing or reviewing, we're going to record those and make them available on those shelves in Canvas for kids. So if you need to access it at 6 p.m. at night, you can do that. And again, very much like literacy, moving into small groups, individual support that teachers need to give students, and then pushing out the right materials from that Florida virtual curriculum. So kids are doing a little bit of I do, we do, you do, and we're still using high leverage practices in order to make sure kids aren't just having to sit there and click buttons all day. It's going to be an interactive time. And again, our teachers are going to stand ready to help. And just to reiterate that this is going to be responsive to your kids. So the way we start the first weeks of school, teaching everybody how to do this the right way, getting familiar with all the materials and tools will look very different than it will in 9 weeks when our kids have got some mastery. And it will also look very different depending on their grade and their age. We are not going to throw a bunch of online work at kids who are 5 years old and just coming into their first school experience. We're actively working as a kindergarten team to think about what stuff we need to get to you, what's appropriate for manipulatives and different things. So we're making sure we have the right stuff for kids to stay engaged. Okay, so then we have some time for lunch in the middle of the day. And we then will have some teacher facilitated content time that'll be also tied to the Florida virtual instructional modules. In the afternoon from 1 to 2:30, we reserve that time for some of those federal programs I mentioned earlier. For students who aren't involved in interventions or English language development or reading supports, then there will be some student-paced things that teachers push out from Florida Virtual. But if they do need that support, then that'll be the time frame where we provide it. And our specialists will be working and contacting families around that. We're also, instead of live recorded specials this year from our music and PE specialists, Florida Virtual has PE modules that teachers will be pushing out with the support of our PE leadership. And then we also have an online music curriculum that we'll be managing through Canvas as well. So more to come on that stuff, but just know that Canvas is going to be that one-stop shop for everything. And we're going to work really hard to be clear on the stuff that's like due and has to be turned in versus the stuff that's extra. That was one concern from families throughout the course of the spring is like, what do I do? There's so much stuff in Seesaw. What are the things my child has to do? And so we're going to be really careful before we start putting anything extra into the Canvas on those shelves. We want to make sure that it's really clear what is expected of you. All right. And again, I know this is a lot. I know this might bring up a lot of questions. Please put those in the Q&A thread or contact our office directly. So as most of you know too, those schedules I just went over are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And our Wednesday schedule is as follows. We're going to still have that morning meeting every day for kids, where we're going to do social emotional learning and lessons. And then there will be materials that are placed into Canvas for your kids to be working more independently. Wednesday is our time when teachers are going to be collaborating, making sure across our 10 schools that 3rd grade, 5th grade, kindergarten is a pretty standardized experience, that we're putting the right stuff into Canvas for you. It's going to be where we have all of our meetings and professional development, and teachers will be planning for the stuff that needs to go out during the week. Interventions, specials will continue to happen during that same afternoon block. And again, that'll be driven by our specialists who will be working with you. Next slide, please. And so, we know that all of this stuff is new, and even just talking about it gets me a little overwhelmed. I'm confident that we're going to do it well and that we're going to work and communicate thoroughly. But we know that this is very different for kids. We know that. And kids are not going to care what you know till they know you care about them. And so it's been really important, brought up multiple times by our teachers, that we carve out some time for one-on-one meetings for the family and for kids. And so the way we're going to do that is for that Monday and Tuesday when we come back to school, September 14th and 15th, we're going to have our morning meeting where everybody will do some community building work. But then we're going to be reaching out to you here in the coming weeks to schedule one-on-one connection meetings. And that's important for a whole bunch of reasons, but we want to start with a strong relationship, open line of communication with you. We want to make sure that if you have any basic needs or resources that you need, that we're able to identify those now and get them to you. We do have a basic needs list from last spring. And, if that change, we're going to check in with everybody about that. We're not just going to keep rolling with that same list. Next slide, please, Lisa. Going on from that, so our first week of school, we will have these interactive social emotional learning meetings for kids in the morning. We'll have some independent activities that are assigned from their classroom teacher, and we'll be meeting that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday one-on-one with families. Thursday and Friday, then we fall into that schedule as I had detailed before, the 8:30 class meeting, working through all that academic stuff. And again, this allows us time to connect with you, show kids some of the tools, and start working in Canvas and Florida virtual tools. So many of you, one of the other frequently asked questions are asking, who's my teacher? When am I going to know? We are in the process of placement right now. We're starting with that cohort A for our hybrid kids, A through L, and cohort B, M through Z for last names. But that's not going to work perfectly in some groups. So we're trying to go right down the middle and make sure we're communicating to families by the end of this week, kind of where we're landing on placement. And we've got a lot of messages into the office about hardships and childcare, and we're considering those too. And then we're having a lot of requests around being with friends, and those are going to be a little harder to meet. What you got to know is we're working to meet hardship requests. We're working to meet this A through L, M through Z cohorting process, because we're trying to align it all the way up through high school so older siblings can provide childcare and there's predictability for families. So we're just not going to be able to meet every single request, but we're trying. All right, next slide, please. School supplies is another commonly asked questions we're working on. As our teachers get to know the curriculum, they'll have a better idea about what we need, and we'll get a supply list emailed out sooner than later and put on our website. What you can start with is pencils, some markers or colored pencils, and 2 or 3 spiral notebooks that kids can use for different content areas. We know those will be part of the Florida virtual model, but then teachers are going to have some personalized stuff that they do too. So hold tight on that and we'll get it to you. And don't feel like you got to go out and buy supplies. If you contact our office or go through your classroom teacher when you guys are connected, we can get those for you. We have a lot of great community partners and a backpack program that we're able to help most people out with. For our kindergarten families, we are excited that we have nailed down some iPad distribution dates. Those are going to be September 8th and 9th, 12:30 to 3:30, and we'll get you a little more detail on which day is yours. But we're going to have our kinder teachers here on site. We're going to have long 8-foot tables that you can sit on either end of and look each other in the face and meet each other. And we are also going to get you some kinder startup materials, and you'll still have that follow-up family meeting those first 3 days of school, but this will be a way that you can see each other and meet in a little more personal way, and get your device and be able to ask some questions about that. We know this is all new for you, and we're really thinking a lot about how to support you the best way. Best thing for you to do is please just reach out to us, ask questions. We're here for you. And we're excited that we're able to pull this kind of modified Kinder Connect off too. Next slide. Just along those lines, look, we know from the spring that there was a lot of tech needs. We were in emergency schooling and we were all kind of reacting to it. And I am really happy to announce that we have got a lot stronger infrastructure now around tech support. We have our district tech help desk. We're going to have a CFT specific tech help desk where we're training some of our office team on that. You'll get information about iPad care and important passwords. We'll get you all those, but any internet needs, if you need Wi-Fi, if you need support in that kind of service, you know, in the spring we used hotspots. Hotspots are going to work for some things. They're not going to be great for live instruction and streaming. So if you need internet service, contact our office. We've got some partners and some resource there that we can help you out with. Also this link, which again, these slides are all going to be on our website for you to get into. But the parent help, there's a whole bunch of articles around how to problem solve tech stuff at home at that link too. We know this is a huge need. We're thinking about it a lot. And, you know, we just ask that you communicate with us if you need anything. Next slide. To reiterate what I've already mentioned, you know, social emotional supports and learning are going to happen every day in every class. And we'll be looking for balance around, you know, teacher facilitated things and times when kids can talk to kids. And just know that we understand it's foundational. Next slide. So, you know, whether we're in brick and mortar like we have done the last several years or working online, we continue to have these core things that we do, class meetings and community circles, and how to establish what's good for the community as a way to support behavior. We have our PACS Good Behavior game where we teach kids and kids get to identify what they want to see, hear, feel, and do more of in the learning space, and focus in on how they can get to peace and productivity and health and happiness. We're adding and evolving some of our work around teaching tolerance to match the needs of the current context. Our kids are going to have a lot of questions about some of the unrest locally, certainly nationally. And our teachers are going to have the skills to navigate that stuff courageously. And we're going to work with families on that courageously too. And we're always focusing on how to be self-aware, who you are in the room, how to be a self-manager, how to think about how to make decisions the right way, and relationship skills, social awareness, and how do you consume media? You know, that's becoming a skill that kids are going to need to be a lot better at as 21st century citizens. There is a lot of things to read and a lot of things to see. How do you know what's true and how do you know what's not? Next slide. And this wonderful lady is somebody who helps us navigate a lot of those things. Miss Cowan is our counselor, and she wears a whole bunch of hats and has a whole bunch of people leaning on her, but she can handle it. She's, as we move into the school year, thinking about those social emotional health and how do we connect kids, you know, thinking about her and Mrs. Foth, who is our behavior support person who works directly with Miss Cowan. You know, how do we have group games and provide lunch bunch for kids? And how do we support you if your child's experiencing stress or worry or anxiety? She can help you connect with outside resources. She can help you brainstorm things in the home that you can do. And we'll be thinking a lot about that as a school team too, how to work and wrap around our families and our kids. But please remember what I said earlier too. We are in a completely new landscape. Kids may have had a bunch of supports and services from Miss Cowan last year in a completely different way. And let's get to know what they're dealing with now, what you're dealing with now, before we just kind of start throwing things at kids. We do not want to overwhelm them with the best intentions. We want to make sure that everyone understands what they're supposed to do day in and day out. And as we see gaps in there, then we're here, and Miss Cowan's going to be a great resource for you. Next slide. And she works hand in hand with Tammy, our family liaison, She'll work with Untitled, our community resource family partnership advocate. And we continue to have a big district resource around Packed with Pride, which has given families, provided families a whole bunch of things, food and clothes and carburetors and all sorts of things. And so we continue to push families to those if they need them. We also have a lot of local food pantries that'll be getting moving up and running again as school starts, and we'll point families in those directions. If you have ideas or resources that you know of in the community, please contact me or our office and let us know. It's great to have a directory of that stuff for families. Up until August 28th, the end of this week, we've had the food service at Metzger, where you can pull up and get a brown bag of breakfast and lunch. And that is all done through a waiver through the state of Oregon for funding. And we don't know exactly when we're going to get approval, or if we're going to be able to have a lunch site, or if that lunch site will continue to be at Metzger. But as soon as we know that stuff, we'll get the info out to the community. We know that we will have resources for food. So if you need those, please get a hold of us right away and we'll get you connected. And again, we'll have a lot more info that comes out about this stuff and how and where to apply for it. Next slide. Want to put in a plug for our outstanding PSO, our parent support organization. They do so many great things for our school, and we're in the process here of figuring out what that'll look like this year too. Our co-presidents, Noel Gross and Alicia Bales, emailed me yesterday, and we'll be connecting today, hopefully, about some quarterly meetings, and would love to continue our coffee and conversation with the principal. That's something we did monthly here in the library. I'd like to do it virtually if all works out, and if there's a want and a need there, where we can kind of talk about shared goal setting and some of the things we're trying to do, some of the things families are trying to do. You can see that there's a Facebook group that you can join and get all of the updates and upcoming things happening with the PSO. You can also contact our office and they can help you with those things. Parent leadership is important in so many ways. And, we know that we don't know it all, and we will be seeking out consultation as we go. We're going to be seeking out user data. So how are you experiencing our school, and how can we make it better? And we also will be sending out some information about our Grupo de Padres Latinos, which is our Latino parent leadership team that we were working to get rolling last fall and winter. And really looking forward to continuing those meetings and conversations, and would love to talk more with our families of Black students. We've had a Black student play group where we did some visits to Black student unions at the middle school, and would love to have more different conversation with our Black families about how to support all kids and support Black students in our school too. So that correspondence will be coming out from me, from our family liaison, our family partnership advocate, and our equity coordinator. So please think about that. And if you're interested, reach out to me anytime. Next slide. Technology nights. Again, I'll leave this up for a second. You've probably got these emails already, but this will be where you start dipping your toe into the technology pool a little bit for the things we need to know this year. The Tech 101 is a little more foundational around access, and Tech 201 on Wednesday evening will be a little more specific about those tools I mentioned: Canvas, Florida Virtual, Parent View. Again, we'll keep sending out info about this. Next slide, please. Again, weekly, I'll be sending out a message from the principal emails. I try to keep these things concise with the need to know stuff for you, but I know I can be a bit long-winded. I'm working on it, but there will be more training opportunities for families, and we'll detail those in our messages, and we'll detail those on our website too. Again, I mentioned the affinity group meetings, our parent leadership groups for our Latino families and for our Black student families. More to come on that. And again, I really encourage you to reach out to me if you have questions, ideas, thoughts, or would like to be a part of those groups, or reach out directly to our family liaison, Tammy Mondahano in the front office. We also, for our kinder families, we are going to be having some kind of virtual kindergarten night. I want to talk with my kinder team about that. I'm thinking it'll be probably teacher specific, where they'll be able to cast you into their room and you'll be able to look all around the classroom and see some of the cool stuff in there and where they're working from. And again, really emphasizing and focusing on connecting your child to a real person, these wonderful kindergarten teachers that we have. So we're ready when the time comes to come back to school. So please pay attention to those. And next slide. And so that is what I got for you this morning, that we got for you this morning. I'm anxious to look into the Q&A and see what kind of things are coming up, and I'll make sure and follow up on those in my weekly email on Friday. These are all those folks I mentioned earlier, and their emails, including mine there, the second one down. And I'll leave this up here as we close so you can see it. And again, the CFT website's a great place to go for all of these connections too. So Wildcats, I know this is an odd start to the year, but you need to know that our teachers are ready. We're ready. We're excited, and can't wait to get back connected with our Wildcat students. And we're going to make this great. And so I want you to know that as our community. So nice seeing you. Sorry you had to listen so much to me here, but we'll go from here. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.